Welcome back, One Tree Hill fans, and thanks for being here. I just got done listening to the podcast for episode 19, How Can You Be Sure? And I'm excited to rewatch to see what new discoveries I can find, as there is a lot to unpack in this episode. And right off the bat, I have to say props to Lucas for being willing to, find out together with Brooke what's going on with the pregnancy or the not pregnancy. So props to him on that. So very heartbreaking moment for Keith when Karen turns down his marriage proposal. However, I completely understand where Karen's coming from. She definitely needs to find out who she is outside of being Lucas's mom. Okay, so when Brooke sees that the test is positive, and I have to say Lucas really does come back to his original self, and you just see him as a little boy. I mean, they really nailed it on the podcast. He really does find his inner little boy. He's scared. They're scared together, from very different perspectives, but still scared. And I do appreciate that he was very, again, supportive in that moment. But I totally understand why Brooke would still be like, yeah, trust you. That worked out so well the first time. Oh my God. When Haley walks in on Nathan sleeping, the only thing I see is that silly nipple ring. I kind of love-hate/cringe when Nathan sees the 23 tattoo on Haley's back. It's like, I feel like he always panics in that moment. The ladies certainly have a good point about how Dan is just kind of popping up around town and in people's houses, and he just happens to be exactly where stuff is going on. It's like, of all the people. Luca's trying to take some aggression out on Nathan. Oh, you kissed Peyton, which I totally forgot about, by the way. Like everything from last week when he saw Nathan and Peyton kissing. It's like, dude, you're just and it's interesting how Nathan's like, what are you so tweaked about? Like he senses something else is going on with Lucas. Ooh, could that be brotherly intuition? I really want to believe that Nikki wants to be a good mom, but I just sense so much manipulation under her as her motive. Like, it's just, I never really trusted her. I mean, I want to believe she really wants to be there for the right reasons, but I never felt that way about her. She's a marvelous actress, though. Okay, so Lucas throwing that jab at Brooke about how do I even know it's mine did come as a response to her yelling at him about who he's been sleeping around with. But, she wasn't wrong. I mean, she wasn't lying. She was telling the truth about what he had been up to, and he was just mad because, he got caught. She knows about it. So for him to say that in response is just gross. Again, Dan is popping into people's houses, mainly Deb, which, side note, Deb is so hot. Beautiful lady. And it's just like, Dan is just so, every interaction is just like, he's so insecure. He's so childish. It's like, oh, don't you ever want Nathan to come home? It's like, he makes it sound like it's Deb's fault. It's like, dude, you had a role in this too. Hello. And of course he has to tell Deb, by the way, your friend Karen's son was coming out of a family planning clinic with a date. So tactful. Well, Nathan was at least honest with Haley about how he feels about her getting that tattoo. But I think he's just freaked out. I think he's just freaked out. And then I totally don't blame Brooke for kind of making Lucas sweat. I mean, I think he needed that reality check. I really do. It's interesting when Lucas runs into Peyton and she's like, hey, I heard you heard about the fantasy kiss thing. And she goes, I wouldn't do that to Haley. But I'm thinking, but you did it to Brooke, and Brooke is your best friend. It's like, I know that's the writing. That's what they were supposed to say. It's just so ridiculous sometimes, some of the things. It's like, what? I can definitely agree with Peyton when she says, I guess we weren't thinking. No kidding. The Haley and Peyton moments are so nice, and I do like when, Haley's like, I'm totally in love with him, and Peyton's just like, well, you've gone further than I ever did with him. It's like, aw, it's like an aw, and then aw. The sheer narcissism that Dan can look Lucas in the eyes and actually say, I told your mother to have an abortion, and if she had been thinking clearly, she would have done what I said. Don't let this girl ruin your life. I mean, pure evil. Like, the fact that you can tell your son that you would have wanted him aborted. Like, I just can't with Dan sometimes. It's like, oh my God, just when I think he can't get any worse. And the fact that he's like saying, like he's acting like, oh, I could have made Karen have an abortion. You can make Brooke have an abortion. It's like, are you truly that delusional, dude? Ugh. Dan popping up at Nathan's. Why would I call? You never answer. And I give you a week in the real world before you hit rock bottom. The beach house will be there when you do hit rock bottom, and you will. It's like, Dan, do you work? Like, do you just have time to drive around and pop into people's houses and be like everywhere all the time? It's like you're Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched. You're like everywhere. Like you're just noticing everything. Nikki trying to threaten Peyton. Peyton isn't going to back down that easily. Wrong girl to threaten there, Nikki. And then, oh, so close. Peyton and Brooke almost had a moment. Why did you have to mention Lucas, Peyton? It's nice that Lucas at least had Jake to kind of talk to. It sucks that Brooke didn't have anybody to talk to. Look at Nathan. So much character progress and emotional development. He's being so mature and not pressuring Haley and just being so great. And he's gonna sell his car to pay bills. Like, how adult of you, sir? Although from Haley's perspective, I can get why that would be frustrating, because it's like, okay, we can't even kiss now. What? The immediacy with which Karen slapped Lucas when he tells her that Brooke is pregnant is just impressive, because she's like angry and then she's like, I'm sorry. Oh, the heart-wrenching moment of Karen just be like, I didn't mean to hit you, I'm sorry, that's just not what I wanted for you. And just the look on Lucas's face, he's like this little boy again, just immediately. And it's just such an emotional, amazingly acted moment on both of their part. I love when Lucas asks his mom, how close was I to not existing? It was just, beautiful, heart-wrenching moment. But I also love that, she's like concerned for Brooke. I really love that, because she knows that Brooke doesn't really have parents in her life. Not involved parents. And the talk between Haley and Lucas is another adorable bestie moment. She's like, how often do you guys think of sex? You're thinking about having sex with him. I would have waited. Really? Becky? Yeah, Lucas is definitely thinking he would have waited in that moment. Kind of wish when Nathan asked his mom why she cheated on his dad, Dan, I kind of wish she would have been like, because I was in an abusive relationship. Now, I know that wasn't widely discussed back when this show was made, but that's essentially what it was. I mean, but her explanation is fine too. I mean, but it's just like, that's the essential, that's the bottom line of it for me. She was in an abusive relationship. I mean, yes, it doesn't make what she did right, but it's understandable. When Nikki shows up on Lucas's porch and is like, yeah, I'm Jenny's mother. Hey, please don't say anything about us sleeping together. That's just a clusterfuck. Oh my God. Haley and Nathan's talk, and Nathan's like, I love you and I just don't want to pressure you. Oh my God. Like, oh, I love Naley so much. With all the places that Dan kept popping up and into, it was amazing that Lucas was actually able to find Dan at work. I feel like when Lucas finds Dan at his job and they have that odd conversation. I feel like that was kind of Lucas's way of kind of taking some of his power back where Dan is concerned. I remember watching this and thinking when Keith decided to leave and branch out and do something new with his life after Karen said no to his proposal, I remember thinking that was so sad. And now I'm like, no, dude, I totally get it. I co-sign on this. Go for it. Oh man, when Lucas comes to talk to Brooke, that is such a heart-wrenching yet beautiful moment in his entire speech. And then when she says she lied when, the doctor called and, but if I recall, she never really said she was pregnant. She just, she never actually said those words. But yeah, I mean, it's messed up what she did. But again, I kind of understand why she did. I mean, being emotional, young, and he did just call her slut. So, I mean, not saying it's right, but I understand it. Seeing Dan go through the pictures and the newspaper clippings of Lucas growing up through the years and having them in this lockbox, it's so conflicting because it's like, you literally just told this boy, your son, that you wanted him aborted. You didn't want him, and you basically made it sound like you still feel that way. But yet you have all these clippings and you obviously care in some twisted way. That's what it is. Dan is just twisted. Nikki totally pulling a stalker-rific moment, just looking through the window, voyeuristically, at Jake and Peyton with the baby. It's like, ah. And then Keith pawning Karen's wedding, the ring that he asked her to marry him with. It's so hard because, I totally know what's coming with Keith, but it's like, I want him to go out and find his bliss because we know what's coming, or I know what's coming. Brooke crying at the end, it just makes my heart go out to her. Damn, Lucas hugging his mom and thanking her for everything is just another beautifully heart-wrenching moment. I mean, and this is the point where, you really want Lucas to come back to himself and, just really stop taking the path of Dan where he was kind of going off and being, womanizer and, playing the field and all that sorts of stuff. So it's like, I agree with the podcast, Lucas kind of coming back to himself and being better. And that's it for this episode. And thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.